But thank you everyone for joining us over here. Good early evening, everybody. Nice to see everyone's virtual smiling faces over here this Tuesday evening. And welcome once again to another fantastic Staffing Management Association of New Jersey event highlighted around a blueprint for change. My name is Travis Fagan. I am the programs director of the Staffing Management Association of New Jersey. Some of you might know our branch, a little bit about what we do. Some of you might not. And so for those folks who do not, we are a specialty branch of SHRM that specifically caters to the staffing and recruiting industry, both in terms of our members and the content that we provide for you. And tonight will be no exception to that as well. So before we did begin, and I gave a little bit of extra side opportunities, membership opportunities, and leadership opportunities that are coming up in the branch as it continues to evolve, and then turn things over to our excellent speaker. I thought I'd just give a quick moment for our president, Lisa Panarello, to introduce herself and say a few words as well, if she would like. So, Lisa, hello there.
Thanks, Travis. And just so for those of you who don't know, Travis, our wonderful programming director, really excited to have you all here. I'm really gonna kick it over to our speaker and give him the bulk of our time tonight, because I know that's why you came, not to hear me. But as Travis said, SMA specialty chapter of SHRM, and we have events and content and networking that is really geared towards your world. We want to encourage you tonight to use the chat function. Ask questions. We're going to have you just keep yourselves on mute right now while Juan, our guest speaker, speaks, just for audio-visual quality. But please get into the chat, ask your question, make your comments, because it's going to wait. He's going to engage. We are certainly going to have a Q&A at the end, so you'll have open mic time to ask questions further there. And I want to let everyone know, this event is pre-qualified for 1.5 SHRM certification credits, so you will receive your code next week. And we're also recording this session live so that we can add it to our library on our YouTube channel and a website. So everyone's going to have access to it for future reference. And also you can share access with colleagues who couldn't make it tonight. So let's get into our fall weather and our great programming. And back to you, Travis.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Eloquent and gracious as always. So before we officially turn things over to our speaker, really quickly, we can get some of our connections and opportunities over your way. So you do have an opportunity to follow and subscribe over to our social channels. We have the QR code right over there. I certainly hope that SMA logo right in the center does not impact our ability to be able to latch onto those, but you'll be able to see also additional information from the emails that we provide over to you as well. And of course, like with any of our events, we do offer some dual membership benefits to joining our chapter, as well as the overall benefits from SHRM. Of course, you know about the resources that we provide in terms of job description templates, how-to guides, interactive tools. Of course, the content that goes along with SHRM membership in terms of research policy updates, the assistance that goes within SHRM benefits as well. Now, of course, there's also benefits within SMA in general, where we are going to, of course, provide you, as we have said, staffing-focused events on the staffing and recruitment industry. Again, that is our area of focus, staffing, recruitment, and talent acquisition. We also provide you with that local recruiter network from our membership community, from our members and our attending members over here as well. And then, of course, as Lisa had mentioned, the recertification credits for your participation and attendance for today. Again, as she has said, after when we are moving along with our speaker, by all means, I would love to the opportunity to answer any of your questions. So feel free to load those up in the chat as he continues to discuss. And then finally, of course, benefits of discounts on SMA events. Obviously, this one being a freebie, but for in-person events, you'll be one of the entitlements is a future discount to one of those in-person networking events. So stay tuned. Of course, we also are looking to folks, if you were looking to get involved, we do have volunteer leadership opportunities within our board. These come down to things like member relations, communications, our social media outreach, college relations, our partnerships, and certification and education opportunities within the branch as well. And then finally, volunteer benefits. You can, of course, influence your peer success, help with building your resume experience, and gaining market and industry exposure into this community and, of course, the greater SHRM community as well. So why don't we come over to the meat and potatoes of the event? It's my privilege over here to introduce our fantastic speaker for a Blueprint for Change, Juan Bendanya. So, Juan is a leadership development speaker, entrepreneur, and coach to top CEOs, Olympians, actors, and Fortune 500 leaders. He's the author of The Confidence Cycle, and his unique blend of inspiration and entertainment empowers leaders to reach higher levels of performance and become the most confident version of themselves. So, Juan, welcome, and love to have you with us here this evening. And it is my privilege to turn things on over to you.
Travis, thank you so much. How y'all doing? Good evening, I guess you could say. How's everyone? Hello, Lisa, Travis, thank you for the warm welcome. Samantha, hi, Lou, how we doing? Mike, Janet, Carrie, Kayla. I just got to say that it's really nice to be able to see some faces here. I had a virtual event this morning and it was just a webinar. I couldn't see anyone. It was just like a screen of doom. So it's nice being able to see all. Mike, good to see you. Listen, it is such a pleasure to be here with you all, but I want to get one thing out of the way before we even dive in. Yes, my name is Juan Bendaña, and yeah, I look like this. Some people find that a little confusing. I promise, mi nombre es Juan, hablo español, soy Nicaragua. We're going to get to that a little later. But the reason why I'm excited today is because we're diving into how to build confidence for that next level, but also inspire confidence in others. What really makes the difference between those days where you doubt everything about yourself and those days where you're on fire. Because with all of the change going on, with all of the uncertainty, changes in leadership, all of these factors that oftentimes have our confidence shaken, it can feel tough to get a foothold. It can feel hard to feel like you're doing well and that you're doing a great job and that the people that you work with, it feels like you're on track and on purpose. And I'm here to share some tools, 3 tools specifically, that will help us get to that next level of confidence for ourselves, but also inspire it in others. So just before we dive in, I would love to know where everyone is coming in from. I know, like, but specifically, like, what neighborhoods, where were you born and raised? Just throw into the chat throughout our time together. So this doesn't feel like I'm talking to myself. Throw into the chat where you're coming in from. And also, let's do this because I'm kind of obsessed with food. I don't know about you. What is your favorite food these days? For me, it has been sushi. That is probably Monroe, New Jersey, but from Brooklyn. Love it. Middletown. Pizza always. Lisa agreed. Amazing. Awesome. I love it, y'all. Listen, today is going to be a little different because I want to share not only some stories that are going to highlight Jersey Shore pasta. I love it. Taco Tuesday, Travis, let's go. I love it. I want to share some stories, but also I want to share some tactics that you can use for you. I want our time together. And if you have any questions, like Lisa and Travis said, any questions, put them into the chat as we go on. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. But I want to make this time for you because sometimes throughout all of the uncertainty, with everything going on, with all the things happening, maybe professionally, but also personally, sometimes, I don't know if you're guilty of this. I definitely am. We spend so much time giving energy to everyone else in our lives and we forget about who? Us. Being able to pour into our lives what we want. And confidence across the board is at an all-time low. People's confidence took a hit in 2020, and actually it never really recovered. There's a confidence crisis across every industry, and we can be the people that not only inspire confidence in others, but build a level of confidence in ourselves that does the inspiring for us. Now, there's no better way to start but by tell you the story of how I almost went to prison. This was years ago. I was traveling through the airport and my backpack gets flagged for secondary. And this had happened before. I wasn't really nervous. I'm sure you've had this happen where, the metal detector goes off and it's just like in any other day. But this time, I go up to the officer and he says, sir, standard check. I got to take you to secondary. Is there anything in your pack that I should be aware of? Any liquids? I go, no, no, sir. Why would I bring any liquids to the airport? And he reaches into my pack and he pulls out a full unopened water bottle. And he goes, "You're lying to me." And I say, no, sir, let me explain. I was at a conference and my backpack, I had friends and family and people putting things in and taking things out without me really being aware of what they were doing. So he takes the water bottle, pours it out in front of me, just ruthless. He says, "Sir, is there anything else in your pack that I should be aware of?" I, I go, no, sir. There isn't. And he says, "Are you sure?" I go, "Yeah, there isn't at all." And he says, "All right." He reaches in and he pulls out an industrial sized pair of scissors, but they were split at the half so they look like switchblades. And now he's angry and I'm nervous. And he goes, "You're lying to me again." And I go, "Sir, no, you don't understand. The water bottle and the scissors, they weren't mine, they were other people." But now I'm getting nervous because I don't know if you've had a moment where you've created these worst case scenarios in your head of what could go wrong, and you've seen the Border Patrol shows, and you know how this ends. He takes the scissors, throws them away. He says, "Sir, I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to ask you one last time. Is there anything in your pack that I should be aware of that could jeopardize the safety of me and the passengers around you?" And I go, "Sir, no." He reaches in and he pulls out a white, unmarked container, but it was filled with white powder. And he looks at me and he goes, "Care to explain this?" And I go, "Sir, to be honest, that's the only one I know about." And he kind of looks confused. And I say, "I was at this event and I brought my electrolytes. It's a hydration drink. It's good for after going on a run. It's good for after a hard workout. It is completely clean. It's a supplement. You can test it. Go for it." So he grabs the bottle. He calls my bluff. He swabs the bottle, goes over to this fancy machine, puts it in the machine. All I hear loudly across the security queue, eh, eh, eh. And he doesn't even look at me. He's looking down the machine, and all I hear him say under his breath, he goes, "Oh no." I kind of look up at him. I cross from the table and I lean in and I go, "Is everything okay?" And he looks up at me and it literally looked like he had seen a ghost. His face was flush and he looks at me and he says, "Sir, you've tested positive for explosives. I'm going to need to ask a few questions about your friend, about the conference that you were at." He starts going through everything in my bag. He then calls the director of airport interrogation. I didn't even know that was a role at all at the airport. Didn't see that on LinkedIn. And he literally calls this guy. He comes over, grabs the bottle, doesn't look at me, swabs the bottle, goes over to this fancy looking machine, puts it in the machine. And the guy looks at me calmly, like he has told someone they're going to prison before. And he goes, "Son, do you know how much trouble you're actually in?" I was like, "Sir, you don't understand that the water bottle, the scissors, like all of this is a misunderstanding." But I was creating all of these worst case scenarios in my head already. I was already creating these narratives in my head, and they start going through all of everything in my bag. And when you're nervous, you kind of look guilty. So they're seeing me sweat and they're seeing me kind of like, what's going to happen here? And after an hour, the first officer breaks character, completely different person, 180 in personality. And he goes, "Hey, man, I just got to say, you're awesome." I was like, what? And he said, "In my 10 years of being here at this airport, you're the calmest person I've ever interrogated. Good job." I was like, it didn't feel that way. I was nervous. I thought I was going to jail. I was like, my skin is too clear to go to jail. I can't do this. Like, I wasn't feeling good, but the reason was because I created all of these narratives about the worst case scenarios in my head. I was creating all of these stories, and I genuinely thought that I was going to jail. I genuinely thought it was over, but that wasn't the first time I'd created a thought that was over exaggerated based on a worst case scenario. Don't we all have moments where we do that? where we create these narratives that if you do that, you're probably going to fail. If you try and roll out that new initiative, it's not going to land with anyone. Well, if you really stretch yourself, it's not going to pay off in the long run. All of this uncertainty, maybe more pressure, more diamonds, but it's not working for you. And we create all of these stories in our head that make us feel less than capable to handle the challenges in our lives. Less than capable. See, we all have a narrative, and it's mostly negative. Most of our thoughts on a daily basis are negative. 80% of our thoughts every single day are negative. That means that your next 5 thoughts, 4 of them are negative. Let me give you the illustration. That's like if you were to give a compliment to a friend and the next 4 things you say to them are insults. We have a negativity bias. Our brains have a negativity bias. We are inclined to look for what's wrong, and where's often the first place we look? Ourselves. Now, over the past decade of my career of working with actors and Olympian CEOs, professional athletes, Fortune 100 leaders, I've realized that there is one thing that stands in the way of us all. Regardless of your level of experience, your level of leadership, your competence, it is the voice in our head. That inner critic that if we were to talk to other people that way, we'd probably have no friends. If we could just see ourselves in a better light, we'd go so much further. How do we know? This is based in the research. They did a study where they took 2 groups of 5-year-olds and gave them an impossible jigsaw puzzle. One group was given the puzzle, told to go solve it, you have unlimited time. The next group was given the puzzle, told to go solve it, you have unlimited time, but in addition to the puzzle, they gave those kids capes and told them, hey, by the way, while you go solve it, I want you to pretend like you're your favorite superhero. As you could probably guess, the group with capes lasted 50% longer. Why? Because they had new resources. They saw themselves differently, so their performance changed. See, how many of us have ambitious goals, but don't see ourselves as the people that can actually achieve them? Here's the truth for us all that I really want to dive into today is that we will never outperform our self-image. And this is professionally as much as it is personally. If we want to change our results, we need to change the way that we see ourselves, how we show up in the world. The only problem is that change is increasing whether we like it or not. And I find that a lot of the strategy for leaders is wish for calmer waters. They wish for more certain times as opposed to creating more certain people. So today, I want to dive into 3 things that are really about the most confident version of you, building towards that, the one that can handle it all, the one that inspires other people to be their best, the one that says, I understand there's a lot of restrictions, there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of challenges going on, but I'm going to be the person that people look to and says, that's who can handle it all. And really, where we need to go is sort of backwards. Because I don't know if you've had this experience. When we were kids, you had all the confidence in the world. But then as we grow up, year over year, experience over experience, that confidence starts to fade. The hands go down. We turn ourselves down and we become less of who we are. And that really escalated for me when I was 19 years old. To give you a little background or context on my story, I was not the confident kid whatsoever, and I had my confidence tied up in a relationship with someone that I thought was going to be the one. You know, we had the plans, we knew what city we were moving to, we knew what kind of dog we wanted, it was set. And as you could probably imagine, when that relationship suddenly ended and it fell apart, so did I. Stopped trying in class. I let myself go. I got to a place where it was such a challenging season of my life that I don't know if you've had that where you turn to coping mechanisms to hide, and I turned to food. And I got to a place where I was 75 pounds overweight, developed binge eating disorder, and felt like my life was spiraling. And just when all of that was happening, failed out of school, moved back in with my parents, in with a traditional Spanish father that needed everything to be perfect, so I never felt like I was. And I remember he would just scream. He had such a bad temper. You'd have this rage and lash out. And then I went into self-preservation. Be perfect. Don't rock the boat. Put on a mask. And it was destroying me from the inside out because I felt like I couldn't be myself because myself wasn't enough. And it was one of those moments that I literally needed someone to come and grab me by the shoulders and shake me. I don't know if you've ever had a season in your life where you're just doing all the wrong things everywhere and you need an outside perspective to drop in and say, hey, wake up. It's kind of what happened. My friend Luis calls me, and Luis, to give you an idea, is by every definition a high performer. He's an entrepreneur living in California. He had a car. He made it. I was like, if I can get around a little bit of that energy, maybe some of his magic will rub off on me. And he goes, Juan, I feel like you need a fresh start. Why don't you come stay with me in California for a month and just get back up on your feet? So I fly from Toronto, Canada, where I was born and raised, to LA. And I stayed with him. And for the first time ever, I started to make a series of these small changes that didn't seem like much, but they started to compound on each other. And within 6 months, I had lost the weight. I launched my first business, but more importantly, I found energy for my life again when I felt like there wasn't any. And that period of my life is why I'm here. That period of my life is why I do what I do. And what I took away from that entire season is this: we're all a few decisions away from a completely different version of ourselves. We have a confident version of ourselves already, but the fact is 80% of the US population identifies with low self-confidence. Low self-confidence in an organization, low self-confidence in a leader, low self-confidence in someone that they're looking to do business with, low self-confidence in relationships, 80%. And the reason is because of the three things that we're diving into today. We have the power to become the most confident version of ourselves. The question is, how do we do it? And over the past decade of my work with seeing actors and Olympians and people that you think would be the most confident people in the world, I've developed a system and a blueprint and a framework for not only navigating change, but also building confidence. Those three things is what I want to share with you in our time today. To dive right in, first big idea that confident people understand that will help you weather and not only survive change or uncertainty, but thrive through it, is that, especially for the work that you all do, is that people meet your energy before they meet you. There's an energy about confidence, isn't there? Like, you can feel it. It's infectious. Confidence is a little contagious. It's like, I'm engaged. I'm ready to show up. But if you're honest, let me ask you this. What is your level of energy on an average day? Just put it into the chat if 1 to 10 is the scale. What is your average level of energy on a given day? What would you say? An 8. Awesome. What else? 8, 7, 9. I feel blessed for that. Love that. Yeah, 6. What else? What else we got? 6. Yes, absolutely. To give you context, across over 30,000 leaders of a survey that we did, we landed on the average was 6. 6 is the average across the board for the vast majority of people. Yes, there are outliers. Yes, there are people that have incredible days. Yes, there are some people that feel like a 3, maybe because they're burnt out. They need they need to recharge. But the overwhelming majority is around a 6, 6.5. Let me ask you, would you ever be with a 6? Do you ever do business with a 6? Would you ever want to be friends with? No, you want to be with a 10. You want to be with someone that you want to be friends with a 10. You want to be around someone that's at a 10. And that doesn't mean off the wall and wired. That means fully engaged and present, because I don't know about you, but a lot of people have their energy on do not disturb. A lot of people have their energy on low power mode. Have you ever seen that, where it's like a yellow battery and it's to conserve energy? But what happens when your phone gets to 1% battery? Like, let me know in the chat, what happens when your phone gets to 1% battery? And let's say you're driving the Turnpike, and your phone gets to 1% battery and you need the directions to get home, to get to that next meeting. Got to change it. You're nervous. WTF. Lisa's feeling it. The world is going to end. If your phone's at 1%, I had a friend and we were out and his phone, it was at 1 or 2%. And his desire to find a charger, he would pay whatever it was. It is like, it's unacceptable to have a phone that's at 1%. Samantha, panic mode. Absolutely. People freak out when their phones are at 1%, but find it completely normal to have their energy that way. People freak out when their phones are at 1 or 2 or 3%, but we make it okay for us. And the majority of people kind of operate at a level 4, level 5, level 6, disengaged, and we wonder why we don't have that drive and that ignition for our lives and for what we do. How many of you honestly have sensed a little low energy out there in the world these days, especially now? And the challenge is when that low energy is you kind of have this moment where you think, I don't know if you've had this, I've had this, where you think, I used to have so much passion. I used to be so driven. I had so much enthusiasm for my life. Then I turned a certain age, and then I had kids, and then I got to a certain place. But we kind of put our energy into a thing of the past, and sometimes people lose their energy for life. And today, I want to give you some tools to be able to get it back. And I want to give you an idea and show you and introduce you to someone that seemingly never runs out of energy. This is my dog, Brody. Brody is my puppy. He looks cute. He's a psychopath. The most excited dog I think I've ever met in my life, I've ever seen. Why? When friends come over, people come visit. This happened yesterday, by the way. He gets so excited, he can't contain his enthusiasm and he pees all over our guests. It's like his version of a warm welcome. And regardless of what's going on in the world, raining outside, Brody's really excited. Changes in leadership, he doesn't really care. Staff attrition, you can't bring this guy down. Here's the main difference between Brody and all of us, myself included. He doesn't really need a reason to be excited or enthusiastic or to bring great energy. Oftentimes, as people, we do. Here's what I learned. For most of us, we make our energy conditional. Only if things are going well. Only if I feel like I'm doing my job at the level that I'd like to. Only if I feel my career is growing year over year and I'm happy with my progress. Only if I feel like my friends and my family like who I am and support where I'm going. And what happens to a lot of people is they make these only if and only when conditionals on their energy that rarely come around. And then what do most people do? We have these inflection points of energy. A birthday, a holiday, and most popular, January 1st. What do people say? What do people say? New year? Put it in the chat. New year, new me. New year, new me. People buy the Lululemons, they sign up for the yoga studio, and then what happens? They feel inspired, they feel charged up, they feel ready to go in January. And the research actually shows that 76% of people fall off by February 7th. Why? Did they pick the wrong goal? No, not at all. Why? It's because they didn't have their energy for that goal anymore because life got in the way. See, what if we didn't need to wait until January 1st to really commit to the things that we want in life? What if we didn't need to wait for conditions to be better, for our lives to be different? See, confident people, what I've found in the research is that confident people generate energy regardless of what that voice in their head tells them. When that voice tells them they can't do something, they text back and say, watch me. When that voice tells them that, listen, I don't think they're going to care about that idea. I don't think that's going to work. They say, I get that. Let's find out, shall we? Here's the challenge. A lot of us have a level 10 ambition, but a level 2 energy and wonder why we're not getting the result that we're after. Because as people, we will not rise to the level of our goals. We will fall to the level of our energy. So if you've been operating at a 5 or a 6 or at a 7 or whatever it is, how do we gear that up to get more vibrancy back, to get more aliveness back for our lives and where we're at and our work. But here's the problem. I'm tired. I'm doing so much. You don't get it, Juan, between the kids, the house, work. I'm volunteering. I just can't catch a break. And I get it. We all have very good reasons to be tired. But I find that sometimes we wear tired like a badge or a sign that we work hard. Do you know how many times you haven't had the energy for something, but you did it anyways? We all have an override switch. You have an override switch, but sometimes we ignore it. And if it isn't hard enough already, have you noticed how people kind of bond over being tired? And people are like, I'm exhausted. Oh, me too. I'm just spent. And then they compete over who is more tired. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Oh, well, I'm just dead. And it's become this cultural norm where we connect over exhaustion. And then the challenge is that sometimes most people ask, and we fail to ask the proper questions that will ignite energy in the people that we work with, in ourselves, our colleagues, the people even that we're trying to recruit. Like, we ask the wrong questions because here's what most people ask. How are you? How are you? What is the resounding answer to that question? Just throw it into the chat. What's the resounding answer to that question? How are you? How are you? Good. What's another? Fine. Travis, fine. Okay. Okay. Fine. I'm fine. Here's the reality. If we ask mediocre questions, we'll get mediocre answers and we'll have mediocre energy. The easiest yet most powerful question you can ask someone on your team, someone that you work with, someone that you're looking to work with, the easiest question to ask yourself is, what are you excited about today? What are you looking forward to? What's exciting in your life? What excites you about this job? What excites you about this career path? What excites you about being a part of this organization? Why? Why does this work? This is not my idea. I wish it was. It is not. There's something called anticipation psychology, which is our brain's way of basically preparing us for what's to come, which is why, and probably a lot of you have had this sensation before, which is why you actually feel better in the weeks and months leading up to a vacation than on the actual trip itself. You feel better before the actual trip than when you're on it. Why? Because the state of anticipation releases more dopamine than the experience does. So how do we leverage this? Because everyone has something that they're excited about. We need to leverage what I call excitement anchors. Whether that's gardening, seeing a group of friends, trying a new restaurant, reading that book, maybe opening that Word document of the book that you've wanted to work on for a while but haven't. Maybe it's pursuing that passion project that you've had on your heart for a while but you've ignored. Or maybe it's just scheduling the date night that you've been putting off. Whatever is exciting in your life, we need to connect to those things. So what are some things that you're excited about coming up this year? What are some things that you're looking forward to? Just throw them into the chat. I always like to hear. This morning we did that. People were kind of challenged to think of what they were excited about. What's everyone excited about this year going on? Throw it into the chat. Going to Miami. Samantha, when are you going to Miami? I just moved to Miami like under a year ago. I can give you recommendations. Send me a message on LinkedIn. If you want to have the best pizza in the world, I got the hookup. Trust me. Election being over, Mike, you can say that again. Spending time with my new granddaughter. Amazing. Samantha, October, very fun. Very cool. Now listen. Whenever I ask this question, whether it's a group of, 15 of us, whether it's a group of 2,000 like this morning, or a stadium of 10,000 people, the same through line exists, which is this. A lot of times, the things that we're excited about are very big. A lot of the times, the things that we're excited about, it's not that they're unattainable, it's that they're rare. So I'm all for the trip to Miami. I'm all for spending time, and I love spending time with new granddaughter and new business engagements. Latonya, that's awesome. I love all of those. The distinction and the nuance here is how many of them are like a birthday, a concert, a trip, because oftentimes people anchor their energy to things that come around only a few times a year. They come around once a quarter. We need to schedule things every single week that we're excited about because we all have that thing that lights them up, that lights us up, that sets our soul on fire. We need to connect to it. When you look at your calendar, you should feel excited that this is your life. Remember that. I tell myself that all the time. When I look at my calendar, when I pull up my calendar on my phone, I got to be excited that this is my life. So I will schedule things with intention so that you can harness that energy that you get from excitement and use it to do the hard things. You got to leverage the excitement that you have. Why is energy important? Because when you walk into a room, when you walk into a meeting, you enter a Zoom room, people meet your energy before they meet you. So what message are you giving? When I came in here and I saw Lisa and Travis, both of them have great energy. And it's not trying to have that. It's not trying to be something. They're just warm. They're welcoming. They're inviting. They're authentic. That is what people meet before they meet your resume, your credentials, your background, or your experience. People meet your energy far before they meet all of those things. So you've got to be intentional with what kind of energy do you want to show up with and understand this, that ideal isn't coming. Listen, as many of you, as if not all of you know, life is going to stay challenging. We need to say that despite the challenge, despite the change, I'm going to keep on going with enthusiasm because my life matters. This is a quote that absolutely blew me away, and I think it'll blow you away as well. The world is a mirror, not a window. The energy you put out into the world will come right back to you. So what energy are you actually putting out? Because sometimes people say everyone is so stressed. Are you sure? Everyone is so negative. Are you sure? When I moved to Miami a year ago, you know what people told me? I think you could probably guess. People told me, oh, people in Miami are, insert assumption here. I'm sure people say the same thing about people in New York or New Jersey. Oh, people from New York, their, insert assumption here. And I find that sometimes that is only true because that's what you're looking for. That's only true because that is what you're attracting. Because if you put out that kind of energy into the world, it's going to come right back to you. So, what kind of energy do you want to have? What kind of life do you want to lead? And now let's lead with that energy. Let's lead with that sort of enthusiasm because it is infectious, and it honestly, especially with with November right around the corner, with the people thinking that the market and the economy we're heading into a recession, with all of the uncertainty across every industry, every single event, group, organization, leadership group that I work with, every single one is like, what's gonna happen? Here's the truth: no one knows. No one has any idea what's going to happen. I know this session was called the Blueprint to Change, but here's the reality. Change is never going to be certain. We're never going to expect what's going to happen. But what we can control is creating a more certain person with more enthusiasm that can face the change regardless of what it is. First big idea is that people meet your energy before they meet you. So decide to bring some great energy. Second big idea is that scared is what you feel and courage is what you do. Now, a moment where I needed some courage, I recently got engaged, and this is my fiance, Gabby. And Gabby and I wanted to celebrate our engagement with a trip to Hawaii. And she had the genius idea of going open water shark diving, like without a cage. I go, Amor, I don't think we want to do that. Travis, that was the exact facial expression that I had when she brought it up to me. And I said, I don't think we want to do that. Samantha says, that sounds awesome. Yes, I was like, logistically, it sounds awesome. I want to watch. I don't know if I want to be in the water. And then she goes, I booked it and it's non-refundable. Oops. I was like, okay, great. So we get out to Oahu. On the second day, we head to the north shore of the island, which is home to the Bonsai Pipeline. This is a set of waves that's one of the most famous surf destinations in the world because the waves, rightfully so, regularly get to 20 and 30 feet high. Literal buildings in the water, and this is where we're going swimming. We pull into the parking lot of the marina. And I look over, and probably 20 feet away, there's 4 millennials doing yoga beside a boat. And Gabby goes, I think that's them. I was like, I don't. And she's like, go ask, go ask, go ask, go ask. So then I go up to one of the guys and I go, hey, sorry to interrupt your, Shavasana, but is this for Deep Blue Eco Tours? And one of the guys looks at me and he goes, yeah, totally. I was like, you do not seem credentialed at all. I'm going to have to check out your LinkedIn because this does not seem safe whatsoever. The boat looks 50 years old. We get in this boat. We had 3 miles into the middle of the ocean. 3 miles. It's me, it's Gabby, it's 4 other people on the tour, and 4 people that were part of the dive team. On our way out, we get briefed with instructions. Rule number 1, when you're in the water, make sure you do not jump in the water because then the sharks will be convinced you're food. Instead, make sure to slide in. I don't really know the difference between a jump and a slide. That nuance feels very close together. So I already don't even understand step 1. He says, rule number 2, when you get in the water, make sure to always remain in eye contact with the sharks at all times. I don't know if you've seen a shark recently, but their eyes are on the side of their face. And I'm wearing goggles, so I'm confused with the assignment. I don't know what's going on. And then he says, rule number 3. I was like, can't wait. When you're in the water, do not swim under any circumstance directly above, below, in front, behind, or beside any of the sharks. And I look at him, I was like, what else is left? I don't understand any of the rules. We get heading out to a buoy in the middle of the ocean. I'm kind of nervous, so I ask one of the other divers and I go, hey, just curious, have you had any accidents before? Just asking for a friend. And he looks at me and he says, we have a pretty good record. I was like, pretty good doesn't sound like perfect, Jeremy. That's not going to cut it. We get out to this buoy in the middle of the ocean. I honestly have no idea how they found it. We get out to this buoy. They explain that what we're going to do is we're going to go forward and backward to create this white water because there's these crab boats that fish off of the coast of Oahu. And what they do is they throw hundreds of defective crab overboard. So the sharks over the years have developed this sort of like unconscious learned behavior that when they see that white water, that means that crab is coming into the water, and that means that it's time for them to eat. And I was like, so we're going to create that white water. Let me get this straight. We're going to create that white water, convince the sharks that it's time to eat, and then we're going to swim? And he says, exactly. I was like, okay, I kid you not. We go forward, backward, forward. 3 times. I counted. Almost immediately, 10 plus sharks start circling the boat. Not like 10 feet away, like thrashing against the side of the boat. The captain looks at me, the least confident person on this boat, by the way. And he looks at me and he goes, all right, get in. And I look at Gabby because this was her idea. And I go, Amor, do you want to go ahead? You thought this would be fun. And she was like, you're going. You help organizations and teams build the most confident version of themselves. Like, you're just do it. And I was like, don't use my career against me. I'm sitting on that back panel of the boat. By the way, we have 0 gear. Nothing. I have goggles, flippers, and a bathing suit. That is it. There's no cage in the water. The safety diver's still sitting on the boat eating a burrito. I slide into the water. I put on my goggles. I look down. And I see 14 plus sharks circling from 5 feet below me all the way to 25 feet below me where I could barely only see their silhouette. It was unbelievable. And then Gabby gets in the water. And then everyone else was getting into the water except for one person that was on the tour. They decided at the last minute to not do it because they were smart. I don't know. And they just stayed on the boat. And Gabby gets in the water. I'm trying to keep close tabs on her. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I lose eyes on Gabby and she's gone. I was like, where is she? I pop up out of the water. I take off my goggles. I look over. I can't see her anywhere. I pop back in the water. I can't see her at all. She's gone. Pop up out of the water once more. I take off my goggles and I look over and I see Gabby and she's on the boat already. She left me to die. I was like, did I marry the right person? I was just like, there was so many questions in my head. I swam around, I got back on the boat, and it was the craziest experience of my life. It was unbelievable. But what really stood out to me was this. Everyone experienced I asked every single person afterwards just to confirm. Everyone experienced the exact same thing. Terrified before, but as soon as we got in the water, it was such an engaged experience that people were elated. It wasn't that the fear wasn't there. It was such an engaging experience that the fear didn't matter. All but one person. The one person who stayed on the boat had a little bit of a different experience. And I asked, and I could kind of tell and I could feel that everyone was kind of over the moon. Everyone is having an amazing time. Everyone is reminiscing on how incredible the experience was, except for her. She didn't get in the water. And she said nothing, but her expression said everything. She wished that she had the courage to try. And I could see, you could just feel the regret of not doing it. And like, we survived and it wasn't that bad. It was okay. And I genuinely believe that that is the reason why fear stops so many great people, even high performers, even leaders, even the best of us. All of us have had a moment where we're afraid to try that new thing. And here's the reason, because we have that goal. We see it from a distance. It looks scary. We doubt ourselves. We hesitate. We're not sure if we're the right fit. And then we ultimately sit on the sidelines of our life or stay on the boat. See, people get so paralyzed by the fear of failure, of messing up, of being rejected, they don't actually go for anything at all. And then that voice in our head sells us on this story. I'll do it when I have the time. I'll do it when I'm less stressed. I'll do it when I don't have so much on my plate. I'll do it when I have the right experience. I'll do it when, and then we wait for a moment where we'll have more in us, but that misses the point entirely. It's not about overcoming your fears. I think it's the worst advice people give. People say, just overcome your fears. Just overcome your fears, and then they'll go away. That's just not factually correct. Because when you overcome one fear, three more pop up in its place. And every level of your life demands a different version of you. It isn't about overcoming your fear. It's about building a better relationship with them. And the research backs this up. They did a study. Fear was reported to coexist with courage. They literally did brain scans that found that they were present at the same time. In other words, we can't wait to feel ready. This is what's backward. When it comes to feeling courageous, getting to that next level, we can't wait until we're motivated. We can't wait until we have motivation, because motivation honestly is unreliable. We've got to act before we're ready and inspire that in others. Do you realize? And this is a thought. I was thinking about this morning. I'd shared with the group this morning about this. I really want you to think about this. Do you realize there's a version of you 6 months from now that's awesome? And I'm not saying that current you isn't awesome. I'm just saying that there's a version of you 6 months from now that has those personal goals that you set today and they achieve them. Do you realize there's a version of you a year from now that's just on fire? See, if courage isn't required in your life, maybe you're playing too small. Maybe you feel a little stagnant in your life. Maybe you feel like that energy has escaped you and you need to reconnect to more exciting things and really schedule them. What to do to build more courage, because people aren't looking for you to tell them how to put themselves out there, how to be more courageous or step out of their comfort zone. They're looking for you to go first. They're looking for you to say, hey, yeah, I'm actually going to show up. I'm actually going to have some, and I call this let's go energy, which is basically the mental effort or motivation required to start something. It's the spark. That's why the hardest part of a run is tying your shoes. The hardest part of doing anything is the start of it. So what have you been putting off starting? What have you been putting off saying, let's go? Whether it's that unexpected change, you say, let's go. You fall short of the goal, let's go. Let's go means that the outcome is not going to determine my output. I'm going to show up anyways. I'm going to be the person that says, I'm going to choose courage even when fear is available, because we all have things in life that scare us. But the next level of our lives requires us to rise to the occasion, not fall under the pressure. So what are your personal goals this year? Because I know sometimes it's in the busyness of what we do and our work and all of the changes in the industry and everything that's going on and everything that's happening. Sometimes it can feel like a lot and we don't have any time for ourselves. But I want you to take this moment on a Tuesday at 6:53. You're here to decide, this is what I want to do. This is something I've been really passionate about. Hey, I have a knack for singing, and I've put that off for maybe a decade. Yeah, I have this thing, I have this project, this nonprofit that I want to be a part of or start, and I just haven't given it much energy. I have this thing that's on my heart that I want to do. Like, what is that for you? You don't need to wait until January 1st to be the confident version that would pursue the goals that you have. Scared is what you feel. It's a feeling. Courage is what you do. So you got to do it scared. Third and final big idea before we get into some questions. Perfect isn't perfect. Progress is. Now, I'd promise I'd kind of explain why my name is Juan Bendania, so here we go. My entire family is actually from Nicaragua. And Nicaragua is a fascinating place because not only because of the scenery, more so because of the culture. You know, even though I grew up in Canada, I was raised deep in the Nicaraguan culture, where if you didn't get seconds, it means you didn't like the food. And if you invited people over at 3, that means they'd show up at 7. And when they share their opinions, they don't hold back. But one of the most fascinating cultural traditions that people in Nicaragua do still to this day is called puerteando. Puerteando is where you take your rocking chair and you place it outside of the home. You engage in local chisme, which is gossip, and it is essentially the act of judging others as they walk by. And for years, I'd always wondered what they talked about. I was what's going on? I want to get access to what they're even talking about. My aunts, my uncles would all do it. And I was dying to know. When I was 12 years old, I got the invite. It was a Friday and I was fired up. They got me a little rocking chair and everything. And I was officially a part of the Nicaraguan elites. I felt on fire. To my right, I had my uncle, who was the commander of the U.S. Army in Nicaragua. To my left, I had my grandpa, who was a member of parliament and a top cancer surgeon. And then my other grandpa, who formerly ran for president before, like right before that I got there. So I'm there and I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I wanted to win their approval so bad. And I realized they're not talking about their day. They just started talking about me. And they were just talking about everything I was doing wrong. And then I found myself starting to feel like I felt like I started to try to make myself different. I felt like I wanted to adapt to be something else and felt like an imposter. And for years, I struggled with imposter syndrome. I felt like I needed to play a part. I felt like I couldn't really be myself. And I was using a strategy that so many people associate to confidence, which is just fake it till you make it. How many of you have ever said that? Have any of you ever said that before? Fake it till you make it. The only problem with that is that we're living in a time right now where people can see right through that. The only problem with that is that it's not authentic. The only problem with that is that it's not you. Don't fake it till you make it. Work on it until you become it. Perfection is an impossible standard. We will not get there. See, I was running away from an inevitability of life, which was judgment. This is one of my newest favorite quotes that I think embodies really being able to step into the most confident version of ourselves. And it's this, that the only way to avoid being judged is to stay silent, do nothing, and be nothing. Aristotle was kind of onto something a bit. Here's the reframe I want to really leave you with, is that what would you do and who would you be if you weren't afraid of what others thought? How would you really show up? You got to realize that you can be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time. See, you may be coming up against a lot in your life. You may be coming up against a lot of change, but what I know is that you're someone that has the resources to handle it all by generating more energy because you understand that people meet your energy before they meet you. By deciding that I'm going to choose courage even when fear is available. And by saying, I'm not going to strive for perfection, because what I hear from a lot of high performers is they say, oh, no, I'm a perfectionist. I just have high standards. Perfection isn't having high standards. It's being in a toxic relationship with someone that you love so much, but you'll never be enough for. It is the lowest standard you can have. Don't strive for perfect. Strive for better. And now before we dive into some questions, and I'll sort of hand it back, we'll get some questions into the chat. If any of you have any, throw them in there now, and we can kind of jam on those, or you can come off mute if you'd like, and we can kind of like conversate and can meet as many of you as I can. Uh, I just want to close by saying, I never really believed in myself. I never gave myself credit. I let that inner voice run the show. And what I want to say is that when that voice tells you to give up and you feel like an imposter, when you feel discouraged, remember that you are awesome. You are incredible. Who you are is meant to be shared with the world. You have no idea how much value you bring to the lives of others. You have no clue that operating amidst all of this change can be frustrating. It's scary, especially when you're responsible for so many things of finding the right people, managing the talent, doing all of the right things to make sure that the future of the organization is in a great place. I get it. It's a lot of pressure. But what I believe is that you have another voice in your head. Because, yeah, we all have that voice that sometimes feels like the only one there. But there's another voice, the one that says you can handle it all, the one that says that you're going to crush it this year, the one that says you can finally commit to the workout plan. I know you haven't before, but you can do it this time. The voice that believes in you more than you believe in yourself. That's what you all have. That voice is also you. Why not you? Why not you for that goal? Why not you for that next level? Because when you tap into the most confident version of yourself, you don't need to tell anyone anything different. Just the way that you show up inspires other people to do the same for themselves. Yo, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me be a part of this. I know it's 7 p.m. I want to stick on time here with the Q&A. So any questions that you have, I will open up the chat. Carrie, thank you. There we go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, y'all. And Latanya, thank you, thank you. Travis, appreciate you. So yeah, here, let me make this different view here so I can see everyone. Any questions in regards to anything at all? I feel like sometimes the best questions are based on challenges that you may have. So any challenges that you've had in your recruiting and your staff, I'm not an expert in that. What I am an expert in is working with leaders and helping them inspire confidence in the people that they work with and how to tap into our own level of confidence and working with a research team of what actually works, what actually doesn't. So in that context, we can sort of dive into a few of those things. Sam, do you have a morning routine? Yes, I do. So my morning really starts at 5 in the morning when I don't want it to at all. And I wake up at 5 in the morning, I get up, brush my teeth, I go downstairs, and I get in a 50-degree tub of water. And it's very painful and it's awful and I hate it. And it gets my energy really primed for the day. And then I head to the gym, I do a workout, come home, I walk Brody. Gabby and I will walk Brody. We'll go to the gym together, and then I will get right into the day. That's sort of my morning routine. I'm not really a breakfast person. I do intermittent fasting. Fun fact. Uh, I love that story you shared, your personal story, tied them to the theme. Lou, thank you. I appreciate that, Lou. Excitement anchors, do you write them down? Mike, yes. So a lot of people do gratitude journaling. I actually do excitement journaling. And once a week, I will really dig into not only what am I excited about, what's been exciting this past week, what am I excited about for the week ahead? Every single Sunday, I sit down and look at my calendar, and I need to be excited that this is my life. It's a superpower because when it comes to energy, there's 3 buckets, and a lot of people think there is one. There's 3 categories. One is psychological, which is you leverage your anticipation to generate energy. You can think yourself into energy. You can think yourself into tired. There's physical, which is the one that people think is exclusively, which is what you eat, how much you sleep, and what you drink. And then there's environmental, the people you surround yourself with. So I'm intentional with all of those things, but psychological, I'm thinking about and journaling on what I'm excited about constantly. Try it out. Try it for 7 days. Don't take my word for it. Try it out for yourself and just start your day. Set an alarm on your phone and say, what are 5 things you're excited about this week in the next 7 days? Travis, do you think that voice of self-doubt, the more actionable goals, to change the voice and things it says, or to ignore the negative, doubting thoughts and the rest will follow? Great question, Travis. So yes, on average, we have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those being negative. That means we have thousands of negative thoughts inevitably. So I think instead of elimination, what the more effective strategy is replacement. Because if you're just a negative thought comes in about what's going to happen at the end of this year, what's going to happen with the stock market, what's going to happen, they're all, and then what happens is most people will negative thought spiral. And then negative thoughts actually compound. So instead of trying to eliminate, I don't think negative thoughts should be eliminated, weirdly enough. They are our survival mechanism. They allow us to discern what is safe for us, what is not. If we're talking to someone and we feel like they're not the real thing, we can kind of see that. A thought will tell them, are they telling us the truth? So I think it's more replacing them. That's number one. Number two is find the common negative thoughts. Because all of us, 95% of our thoughts are repeated from the day before. So there's some that repeat over and over again that we have a habit of telling. Find those, replace it with someone else, replace it with something else. So what I would do is I would take what are the most popular negative thoughts that I have on a weekly basis. I'm going to write as many as I can. Then I'm going to draw a line and then decide consciously, what are the thoughts that I could replace this with? What are the thoughts that I could replace this with? A negative thought that I had before when I was 75 pounds overweight, I think everyone is going to judge me when I go to the gym. Everyone is going to judge me for being overweight. Was that true? Maybe, but I didn't know. Why? Because the fear of putting myself in that situation didn't even let me get into the situation. So then I took that thought. I was like, okay, everyone is going to judge me at the gym. Is that true? Like sometimes it's about questioning your thoughts. Saying, is that really true? They did a study at Cornell University that found 85% of the things that we worry about never happen. 85% of the things we worry about never actually happen. And then for when they actually do, the 15% of the time that they actually do, 80% of people say the challenge was easy. Easy. But we inflate things in our mind. We make it so much bigger than it is. We make the worst case scenario. And we make the worst case scenario about ourselves all the time and beat ourselves up. And that's why people are awful to themselves, so kind to other people, but terrible to themselves. And I see this across the board. When I was with the executive leaders at American Express, the top 1% performers at Zillow, the leaders at US Bank, like made you think people that would have all of the confidence in the world, they were like, yeah, I got that imposter that comes up that tells me you shouldn't be here. Yeah, I got that imposter when I'm being called into that room, when I'm being called into that meeting, when I'm being called into that negotiation. I have that little voice in my head. I don't belong at the seat at the table. I don't belong here. Sometimes it's not convincing other people that you deserve a seat at the table. It's convincing yourself of it. That's what I find the majority of the time. Let's go to the next. Samantha, thanks so much. Thanks so much for being here. Jana, let me see.
Juan, I have a question, and I'm taking myself off mute because one, I'd like to encourage other people to do that because we'd like to see and hear. Two, it's a question that I don't think could take too long to write in the chat box. I have a client who I'm a career coach, and she has to interview. She has 5 candidates to interview this month for her team, and she's so nervous about handling these interviews for a couple of reasons. One, her manager has actually changed. She's had 3 managers, that she reported to in the past 3 years. And the company had gone from one platform to the next. I forget what platform she's talking about. And they're changing their perspective on how they're approaching business for 2025. She doesn't know how to sell the company that's in a state of flux to these candidates. And she's responsible for messaging that so she can have folks that are excited about coming to the company. I don't expect you to solve that problem for her, but what kind of thoughts could you have in her head? What kind of messaging can she leverage in order to feel more confident in how she's messaging her company that's not confident?
Yes, I think it's twofold. Number one, and I always see that I see this with leaders that are doing a lot of hiring and in a season of onboarding new people and doing a series of interviews that they're like, I feel like I want them to be as excited as I am about this opportunity, which is totally fair. How do you get there? I feel like there is an underemphasis on the goals and the where that person is going and what they actually want. When you're interviewing and that person, like asking them not just the questions of are you qualified, the questions of what do you want out of a career? What excites you about your life? And making it like really getting aligned with their like what they want and then strategically positioning the messaging in alignment with their goals because they need to be able to see themselves like at the end of the day a job, a role, a career path takes up so much time, energy, and effort in someone's life. That choice is daunting. So for someone to make that choice, they need to feel like, okay, this is aligned with where I want to go. And sometimes they don't even know where they want to go. They're just like, I'm just going to try this and see how it goes. It's giving them a vision for something they can move towards that is remotely exciting. That's number one. And then number two is when it comes to communication, 8% of communication is the words we say. I think messaging is very important. It absolutely is. But to the point of what kind of presence and warmth and I want you to win feeling are you creating for them? Because people don't remember the words you said, the things that you presented in your deck, they don't remember any of that. They remember the feeling, as Maya Angelou said, they remember the way that you made them feel. So I think number one is align with their vision for the future. If they don't have one, cast an exciting one and sell the vision to them as opposed to the positioning. And then number two is that bring some bring some warm energy to it. Bring some enthusiasm. Be like, hey, I want to see you win. I think you're perfect for this because that's the person that people want to work with. People don't want to do business or work with a four or a five. They want to work with someone that's engaged and really present with them, making eye contact, being warm, smiling, asking about their personal life. They're a human, they're a person. Do you have a dog? Where do you go on vacation? Where do you live? What do you like about New Jersey? Like, there's so much that you can really connect to there, and I think those two things would be ideal. All right. Any other questions? Let's see.
I think a real quick one, if you don't mind, I'll piggyback off of what Lisa said too with a verbal question as well, because I can sometimes get too verbose and that'll be a very, very crowded chat window question. Because there's also a lot of like in the current job market, there's a lot of people feeling a lot of ambivalence. There's people feeling a lot of depression, a lot of down thoughts, mixed in with, some occasional bursts of positivity. There's a lot of people that, just uncertain about a lot of things. And you began by asking all of us, what our pretty much standard energy, what our energy rating would probably be in like a 1 to 10 scale. And, for a lot of us, it's too low. What are your thoughts on in terms of like where your state is in terms of a positivity or negative level of like where that energy is being? I know this is going to get to be a long question. I'm sorry, but like whether you're not in a positive or a negative frame of mind, where does that fit onto like the energy spectrum too? Like when you were saying you were going to jump into, an ocean filled with sharks, I'll bet your energy level was probably at a 10, but it might not have been, I'm super loving everything about what's going on right now. And so in terms of, how a person feels about their energy levels, how important is whether or not that energy is from a negative space or a positive space that correlates to that rating?
Fantastic question. I think it's everything. And it's really the peace on, because I always have this conversation with, introverts that they're like, well, I'm introverted. I'm not the person it's energy is engaged. Energy is directing your focus towards a certain area. And I think, like, my wholehearted belief is that there are many things trying to steal our attention and focus, and thus trying to steal our energy. And sometimes people say, like, I feel anxious and I feel like it's so negative and I kind of doom spiral like daily. And I'm like, walk me through your week. And it's like, well, I wake up and I turn on the news and I'm like, ah, sometimes we got to stand guard at the door of our energy. And sometimes that looks like directing our energy towards, we can either, what's wrong is always there, but what's right is always there as well. And sometimes I find that people direct their energy to either the news or social media, and they allow themselves to be be a byproduct of the world around them, as opposed to being intentional with their energy, with their time. So the correlation is absolutely strong. You could be at a 10 in terms of rage, and that's a certain type of energy, but energy in terms of just not only in the context of confidence, but engagement for your life is more so the energy that we're talking about, of believing in your ability, believing in who you are, feeling like you don't need to be an imposter, feeling like you can actually share your authentic self and not be judged by it. So I think that's an amazing point, because too often people direct their energy to the wrong things and they wonder why they're tired all the time. And it's just directing, read better books, get around better people. What, like, I don't know, I just feel being caught up in all the drama. Well, what do you do? Well, after work, I turn on Selling Sunset. Oh, oh, that makes sense. I understand. So I would do, for all of you, and I've done this and it's transformational. Do a week audit, a week energy audit. We talk about this a little in like deeper dive trainings, but basically take your calendar and look at everything that is on your calendar and give it a score. And then look at your averages, and then you can say, like, wait, there's no tens, there's no nines. And I'm not saying that twos or threes or zeros or ones are going to go away, because if you have taxes, I'm not expecting that to be a 10. That's going to be a 2 for me. If I see that, it's going to be a 2. I will give that a 2. But I will I will intentionally and strategically layer that 2 with a 10. Okay, that morning, Gabby and I are going to go play pickleball. Okay, I got to do all of the, I have a lot of 2s. Okay, mix it up. Wait, I got to schedule a 9 in there. We had friends over yesterday because looking at the calendar, we had a lot of stuff. I had a virtual keynote for a few thousand people this morning. We're here. I had like 3 or 4 meetings, like bouncing around. I was like, okay, we need a 10 in here. So I think doing the energy audit calendar, like energy calendar audit, is a wildly powerful tool. And let me see. I'm trying to remember. Janet, yeah, Janet, your perspective. When I have negative thoughts, I try and remember how much worse it can be. See, a lot of times our problems are things other people would be grateful for. It's perspective. You get a blister from going on a run, and you're like, oh, it's so annoying, I can't walk, but you have a leg. There's always a perspective. There's always a shift. In every situation that we experience, we're viewing it through a lens. That lens is either making you feel awesome or making you feel like trash. Which lens are you going to pick? Which lens are you going to look through? So, Mike, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sam, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome.
And I know some folks are dropping off. I know we're going to be wrapping up momentarily, but that definitely sounds like if there's any kind of audit that you can actually look forward to, like that,
Yeah,
taking your
yeah.
daily audit of your positivity or your negativity stock. When I think that speaks volumes that not enough of us are doing that. And so, but I just wanted to give you a moment here too, if you had any final thoughts or anything that you wanted that you thought you wanted to close with to leave our members before we wrap up, because it's been and again, like I speak for everybody, thank you so much for everything that you have shared today, because it's not enough of what we get to hear and really take to heart. So I know that we do truly appreciate that. And so if there was anything else you wanted to close us with, I really, really we would love to hear it.
Of course, yeah. I'll keep it short and sweet and just say that it blows my mind how many of us, in the world and our careers feel like imposters and feel like we need to be a certain way to fit the title and feel like we need to be something else to please people whose opinions actually don't matter. And what I would leave you with is to say that everyone feels that way. Worked with Olympic medaled athletes, worked with CEOs, Fortune 100 executives, C-suite, like across the board, they all feel that way. Everyone has that imposter syndrome. It sounds cheesy, sounds corny. Sometimes the best thing you can do is believe in yourself. And sometimes other people believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. You just got to remind yourself, you're awesome, you're amazing, but you need to remind yourself of that. You don't want to rely on everyone externally telling you that because then you're waiting for that. And then when it doesn't come, you fall apart. So be kind to yourself this week. Believe in yourself this week. Tell yourself something awesome this week. Schedule something exciting this week. And if you need anything, send me a message. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'm happy to respond. Lisa's got all my info. And then yeah, I'm just wishing y'all an amazing fall. Listen, like I know there's a lot of chaos right now, and I know especially with November right around the corner, and the debate tonight, there's a whole lot of chaos in this country right now, and no one has any idea what the heck is going to happen. But we can go through that with some confidence and give some people that same confidence along the way. So I just want to give a massive shout out to Lisa, Travis. Thank you both for having me be a part of today. It's been awesome. If y'all need anything from me, I'm an email, I'm a LinkedIn message away, and wishing y'all an amazing rest of your week. Happy September.
Thank you so much, Juan. Really, really appreciate that. And very, very much right back over to you. It was an absolute pleasure. And the takeaways all across the board are something that I really genuinely hope that we are all able to take to heart as it is incredibly important. Um, Really quickly, folks, to where we're going to be wrapping up from here, just wanted to remind everybody that, of course, the Garden State Council is going to be coming up very soon. You do still have your opportunity to sign up. Of course, the link will be over at SHRM.org, gscshrm.org. So that will be coming up in September 30th through October 1st in Atlantic City. And then we also please be sure to mark your calendars because Thursday, October 17th, our next event will be coming up with Susan Russo. If you've been following our events previously, that name might sound familiar to you. She has worked with us before, and and if you have, you know that she is very awesome as well. It's going to be about refining talent acquisition and development strategies in talent acquisition. And then later into the year, closing out the year, we'll be talking about navigating uncertainty in the 2024 job market. So thank you on behalf of Juan, Lisa, SMA, everybody over here. I really, really would like to thank you for your time, your questions, your everything over here today. And once again, Juan, thank you so much. It was a privilege to have you over here with us today. As he had said, please, by all means, connect with him via LinkedIn as a resource because we're all always about helping each other out. And thank you, everyone. I hope you have a very, very fantastic rest of your day.
Awesome.